Are you done with that report I wanted?
No, I'm behind on that. I've been in meetings all day.
So you're behind on work because you had meetings all day about work?
Exactly. God, I hate it. We must stop with these meetings.
Oh my goodness, I could have watched that all day. I think the point is that we all have been in so many meetings that every meeting just feels like a repetition of the last one. We bleed from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting. And we're filling these spaces without a lot of purpose, without a lot of structure, and just duplicative in so many ways.
You're locked in to Burn the Blueprint podcast, where Tony Tidbit and Dr. Bridget Cooper challenge outdated rules and build smarter ways to lead. If you're ready for courage, clarity, and real talk, you're in the right place. All right, team, what blueprint are we burning today?
Hi, I'm Tony Franklin, known as Tony Tidbit.
And I'm Dr. Bridget Cooper, better known as Dr. B.
And welcome to Burn the Blueprint podcast,
where we break down outdated corporate playbooks, call out what's not working, and rebuild smarter, stronger, people-centered systems and that drive performance and happiness, right?
Absolutely. You have to be happy, Dr. B. And look, so you're happy right now. Beautiful smiles. So you ready to dive into it, my sister?
Listen, I've got the lighter right here.
Great. Because we're definitely going to need that lighter today. Hopefully it's refueled with lighter fluid because we're going to be burning one of the biggest rituals in corporate America, and it's called meetings. Okay? Meetings.
Where's the scary music? I think we need the scary music right now.
I think we're going to have some a little bit later, But look, at the end of the day, every company says they want productivity. Every leader says they want focus. Every team says they want efficiency. And yet, corporate calendars are packed with meetings, status meetings, check-in meetings, pre-meetings before the real meeting, and then follow-up meetings after the meeting, right? And somewhere in that maze of calendar invites, productivity quietly disappears. So we have to be honest. Most meetings don't create decisions. They distribute responsibility. They spread information that could have been written in 3 sentences. However, the culture continues. And why? Because you know why? Meetings feel like work, right? They create activity. They make leaders feel involved. But activity is not the same as progress. And if the meeting became the default tool for communication, then real thinking time disappears, which leads to a bigger question, Dr. B. Are meetings designed to move work forward, or are they designed to make us feel busy?
Whew, that is a great question. And I want to dig right into that. As you and I were talking off camera, a couple of my books have a tool in it called From Meeting Hell to Meeting Well. So this is one of my favorite topics. And I have even, my favorite statistic is since the pandemic, meetings frequency has gone up 250%. So
Insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Insane. Right? I mean, I don't know what we're going to do. And it's interesting you said since the pandemic, because I'm trying to think back. That's, 6 years now. And wow, you're probably 100% right that they've increased substantially, right? It's just trying to remember if it's always been this way, but it really doesn't matter, right? It's out of control, right? And at the end of the day, companies are looking for productivity, but a lot of time is being wasted in meetings, right? And especially as you become, as a senior leader, it seems that's all you're doing is going to meetings. So look, I want to play this quick little clip, and then I want to hear a little bit more about the anecdotes that you put together in your book regarding meetings.
You got it.
I have meetings all day today. It's gonna suck.
Come on, they're not that bad.
Are you serious? I swear, almost all meetings are pointless.
Aren't you exaggerating this a little?
Listen up, buddy. There are so many reasons why I hate corporate meetings. They waste time, kill productivity, and force you to pretend to care about other people's opinions. In other words, meetings are the worst part about corporate culture.
Sure.
The thing I hate the most about these meetings is the weird assembly of characters you'll meet.
Characters? What do you mean by that?
It's like in every corporate meeting ever, there are a few unbearable types of people who's always there. Don't worry, I'll elaborate. The first type of meeting attendee I hate is called the adder. This person doesn't contribute in any way, shape, or form. They try to look focused, and when the opportunity arises, they add something. It's always something that sounds important, but doesn't actually have any substance. They're like,
Yes, let's circle back to that. If we just zoom out for a second, let's build off that. I don't have the answer, but I might have a question that could lead to an answer.
But he's not contributing.
exactly. He's just adding empty phrases to seem important. In reality, he's contributing zero value. The next unbearable person you'll have to endure is the sorry I'm late guy. This is usually a salesman, but it can also be a tech or finance bro. They show up 15 minutes late, Starbucks in hand. Next is the mandatory small talk to get the juices flowing and break the ice.
So, how was everyone's weekend? It was very nice.
Good.
I had a lot of fun.
Glad to hear. How was yours, Lisa?
It was good. It was so nice. On Sunday, I went to the flea market with a couple of friends.
Oh, sounds lovely.
Yeah, it was. We found an antique watch that I think I'm gonna give to.
We don't care. Nobody on this meeting cares.
Whoa.
That's rude.
Damn.
How was your weekend, Cringe?
It was good.
Looks like someone woke up on the wrong side of the bed, huh?
No, I didn't, you idiot. Just start this damn meeting. But the best part of having meetings is being able to tell people about them. Ironically, you can use it as an excuse.
Hey, are you done with that report I wanted?
No, I'm behind on that. I've been in meetings all day.
So you're behind on work because you had meetings all day. About work?
Exactly. God, I hate it. We must stop with these meetings.
Oh my goodness. I could have watched that all day. And I can hear my clients actually saying, different vernacular, but most of those pieces. Love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the point,
No, finish your thought.
Yeah, no, I think the point is that we all have been in so many meetings that every meeting just feels like a repetition of the last one. We bleed from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting. And we're filling these spaces without a lot of purpose, without a lot of structure, and just duplicative in so many ways. And then we have these characters that want to feel like, well, if the meeting matters, then I have to be a person who adds value, right? I don't want to be at this meeting, so I'm going to be passive aggressive and show up late. It's all the brings out the worst in corporate America and in teams. And we've just got to burn this blueprint, Tony.
Yeah, listen, the old blueprint says, let's schedule a meeting, let's get everyone together, let's discuss this further. But here's the problem. Meetings often delay decisions instead of making them, right? And so nothing typically comes out of the meeting. And what drives me crazy, and I love the characters because I can definitely relate to some of those characters in the clip, the adder, and then the person that's always late. But to be fair, they schedule a meeting at 1:00. And a lot of times you have, these are, virtual meetings. So they could be Zoom or whatever, Teams, whatever the case may be. And then you dial in at 1:00. And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, let's wait another 5 minutes to give everybody else a chance to get in. And it's like, wait a minute. I thought the meeting's at 1:00. All right, so now we're only starting the meeting at 1:05 because we got to wait for everybody. That makes it's just a waste of time, right?
Right.
A waste of time. And then most of the stuff that is being stated is stuff to his point. You could have just sent an email on, right? And then the follow-up meeting, let's circle back later on this week and discuss, there's no decisions being made and it's just a waste of time, right? And so let me ask you this. You like I said, you came up with meeting well. What's the name of your
meeting hell to meeting well.
And let's go from hell to well. So how do we go from meeting hell to meeting well?
There are some real core principles, and I think they're very understandable. And if we look back at that 250% jump in meetings since the pandemic, we see that one of the reasons that we get together in these meetings is to connect. So during the pandemic, one of the reasons that meetings went up was to get FaceTime and to hold accountability. If you had somebody on camera, you knew they were working. So if you saw that their calendar was filled with meetings, you knew they weren't just doing laundry and hanging out with their friends and playing, Xbox. So now that we've gotten into this, and I'm sure there are a few people who were playing Xbox, let's be honest.
True. It's true. Yeah.
However, having been a person who's been working from home for 25 years, I can tell you that most people are working harder when they're working from home than the other way around. Anyway, how we move from it is one, understanding that meetings and being present in a meeting usually means nothing else is happening. So I have client over client over client who have maybe 30 minutes to an hour in any given day to actually do anything. The rest of their time, they're discussing things in meetings. So the claiming back white space, and I put my clients in charge of this on their calendars all the time, that they must carve out pockets of time that cannot be infringed upon for any meeting, for any purpose, so that they can collect their thoughts, that they can, see above the clouds, and they can actually get the work done. And another thing is the meeting itself in terms of structure is having a purpose for the meeting, knowing that the right people and only the right people are involved in the meeting, and holding the meeting attendees accountable for what is the outcome that we desire at the end of this meeting that makes this meeting a worthwhile investment of our time. And when you get very purpose focused in a meeting, not only can you hold one another accountable and not encourage the adders, or the people who are running in late, but you actually make the meeting move that needle in a way that, as you were describing before, most meetings don't do. And lastly, and this is part of that, is holding people who are in the meeting accountable for some of those outcomes. Because how many times working in corporate have you been into a meeting? You go to the meeting, everybody leaves the meeting, you do the circle back meeting a week or 2 weeks later, and nothing has happened in the interim because no one knew who had the ball.
Yeah,
so at the end of any meeting, you have to establish who's on first, who's taking this across the finish line. How do we know that these things that we've agreed upon that are going to get done are going to get done, and who do we point to make that happen?
Absolutely. And as I was saying, there's nobody accountable for next steps. It's just, let's bring it back, right? So let's do the math.
Have another discussion.
Have another discussion. It's just a waste of time. And then it's political too, which I'm going to get into in a second. But let's just go to the productivity standpoint, right? Mm-hmm. An hour meeting with 8 people costs 8 hours of productivity. Okay? So think about that for a second. You pulled these people in to talk about something that really could have been sent in an email. Or you could have, if you, and most likely you need to talk to 1 or 2 individuals to be fair. And you could have just did that on the side, right? But you bring them out. So now all of a sudden productivity is down. And I love in the clip when he talked about you can use the meetings as an excuse in terms of why you didn't do any work. Okay? Because I've been in meetings all day long, right? So it's just a waste of time. Number 2, but let's be fair though too, right? There is some political baggage that goes with this, right? Because not 100%. Everyone doesn't want to be at a meeting, but sometimes they feel they have to, because if they don't show up, then it's like, why was you at that meeting? All right. And at the end of the day, now they get penalized because they didn't show up to a meeting that was worthless in the first place. So they have to show up in FaceTime. And then also the political point too is that, well, if they don't say nothing in the meeting, so you're not contributing to the meeting, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a million things that makes people feel that they have to show up. They have to say something, which is a waste of time. That's where the adder comes in, because they have to substantiate their value to the company, why they're at this meeting, when they really don't need to be at this meeting. But if they're not at the meeting, then political points are used against them, right? Because you didn't show up and your job is this and you should be there and blah, 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 right? So how do we get past that from the political standpoint? Because to be fair, that definitely happens in corporations.
Absolutely. And I think there's a difference. I think we need to articulate the purpose of a meeting and why someone would need to be there. So if I am a decision maker that needs to weigh in as part of the decision, and that meeting is for decision making, then I need to be there. If that decision is sharing information to come up with arguments for and against that then get presented to me for me to make a decision, then I don't need to be there. So part of it has to do with the mission and the outline and the structure of the meeting itself. And I love what you said about 8 hours of productivity, lost with 8 people in a 1-hour meeting. It goes beyond that. I actually have one of my clients who's very data driven. He presents every time they get together with a meeting. He puts a number in the chat of how much that meeting is costing as an average head count and payroll.
I love that.
And meetings are costing between $5,000, $8,000, $10,000, $20,000, $25,000, depending on how many people you're having at a 1-hour meeting. It's crazy. Like, you wouldn't throw that money at a meeting. So why would you throw that many people at a meeting? That's part of it. The second is when you pull someone off into a meeting, There's also the follow up to the meeting. There's the pivoting from what you were focused in. If you're working on a project and then you got to pull out so you can log on to the Zoom or to the Teams meeting, or, go into a Slack chat or whatever it is, you're also having to recalibrate your brain's focal pattern to accommodate for this new activity. So you're pulling yourself out of things. And that's where errors occur. That's when people make more mistakes, forget pieces, drop balls, is because they're pivoting over and over and over again throughout the day for meeting after meeting after meeting. So it really drains the entire system, when in fact, if you can create a shift in corporate culture that says meetings are outlined for purpose, like, are we making a decision or are we gathering information? Who is required, right? And who, like, the minimal number of people that need to be there are there. And the ego strokes about who's important and how they weigh in on their jobs is really measured by outcomes, not by whether or not they share information in a meeting. Who are they putting as their point person? So if you're my counterpart and you're going to this meeting, then I'm going to give you the information that I would share and you can be my mouthpiece, but I don't need to also be there sitting next to you so we can say the same thing and be an echo chamber for each other. So it's about being strategic and so transparent about how politics actually should be working in any given organization.
And again, this comes down, so what I'm hearing you say, this comes down to the leader who's setting the meeting, right? Because that's really the key
100%.
here. They're the ones setting the agenda. They're the ones calling the meeting, right? And at the end of the day, if their meeting is not, to your point, to come up with a decision, okay? Or gather information. And when you say gather information, let's be fair though too. Sometimes you don't need to call a meeting to gather information. Okay, you can call a meeting. I mean, now you can say, "Hey, I'm gonna send this out. I love everybody to look at it. We can," but obviously, what we're trying to get out of it is this. So when we meet later this week, we're gonna come to a decision about this, and I need everybody to come prepared to talk about this, right? And if they're not involved in this, they shouldn't be in part of the meeting, right? Does that make sense?
And part of it, and absolutely, Tony. And the other piece of it too is that we do get a lot of great ideas in brainstorming sessions, because when we hear someone else say something, that might spark an idea in us that might also be helpful. So if it's a brainstorming session, it makes sense to have people who are creative, open-minded thinkers sitting around a table bouncing things off of each other. But one of the things that we often do is we decide all meetings are 1 hour. And then it's kind of like when you have money. If you make $50,000, you make $100,000, you make $500,000. Guess what? You're just as broke in every one of those situations because you fill the space that you're given. And the same thing happens in a meeting. If you're given an hour meeting, you're going to fill the space of the hour. If you're given a 30-minute meeting, you're going to fill the space of the 30-minute meeting. So another way of orienting ourselves to these meetings and to having these even purpose-driven meetings is condensing it in the smallest possible frame so that there is an intensity around activity that actually produces outcome and drives performance. When you just sit back and you're like stuck in an hour meeting, you're going to have people who drag in late, who bounce off early, and who check out until the moment that they have to add something in. When you do, and I have a lot of clients who have 15-minute stand-up meetings every morning to like huddle. They do a huddle. And that creates productivity because then everybody's on the same page. They've shared the relevant information and they're off and running.
Absolutely. And I love that because those are the most productive because it's right 15 minutes, 10 minutes. Everybody's right on the edge of their seat. They're ready to roll. And what also that does is decrease the distractions because let's be fair though too, since, and since you said the pandemic, 250% increase in meetings, right? The other thing that has increased since the pandemic when it comes to meetings is the lack of etiquette. Okay, because at the end of the day, you got people on their phones, all right, or they're off camera, right? And it's unprofessional. And so what's basically happening, the majority of people are not listening anyway. They're not engaged.
Checked out.
Okay, they're checked out. So all the information or whatever you tried to accomplish, what you thought you was going to accomplish during that meeting, it's not going to even happen to the majority of those people. Matter of fact, I can tell you what's happening. They're texting other people at the meeting saying, "You believe this shit? I can't believe
They're on
they
their
got
Slack
me talking
channel.
about it. They on Slack. They're not even paying attention, right? And so those are
Yeah.
some of the other things, though, that causes angst. And I'm glad you brought it up. Slack channels and all these other who are meant to be collaborative communication pieces are really distractions, okay? And so that decreases productivity too, because then people start going off on the yin yang. They start talking about side conversations, and the next thing you know, people still from a political standpoint, you know, Dr. B, she just got, let's give her congratulations. People feel that they got to give an emoji if they don't do it, or if they don't say something, then they're not engaged. So these little bitty things become big things when we talk about productivity and putting stuff on people's calendar. But going back to the etiquette, speak a little bit about that as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the things that falls apart in these meetings, because people see meetings as a drag, as a waste of their time, as a pulling them away from their productivity, feeling like you must not respect my time to keep squashing my time this way, or I don't have any time to get anything done, so I'm going to have to be off camera so I can be doing another thing. I can't tell you how many executives that I coach who are in multiple meetings at the same time.
That's insane.
They're on a meeting, they're off camera, but they're on the phone with someone else, or they're texting, or they're emailing something, because they have to be, because they're double and triple booked in slots. And I think the other piece of it is the orientation that we have toward how cool it is to be busy, or how popular or accepted it is to say, I'm busy. And the more packed your calendar is with meetings, the more busy you appear to be, and the more important you may feel that you are, and the more you may be leaning on, I'm so stressed out, instead of saying, what control can I take over my calendar? And not only as leaders do leaders set the tone in a meeting in terms of whether they're on camera or off camera, or they're looking down at their phones or not, or they're dropping a text into the Slack channel or what have you, but also just from an overall standpoint of when they do their check-ins with their teams, if they see that their teams are in meetings 90 to 95% of their calendars, that's for a leader to call out. And it starts with the leader. You know, as being a parent or a leader, you set the tone in your home and in your organization. And what people see you doing, they follow suit. So if you are always packed and running from meeting to meeting and triple booked, they're going to see that as a rule that they need to follow as well, because that's the culture that you've set. So it starts at the top, like we always say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the one final thing before we close, I want to dive into this, right? Because as a leader, you know, there's an old saying I always believe, right? Once you're in the weeds, you stay in the weeds. Okay. And as a leader, you don't need to be in the weeds. Your head needs to be above the weeds. So you could be thinking strategically. You could be thinking big picture. You could be thinking these things, the vision of the organization, all those things. But you can't do it if you're in the weeds and all you're doing is showing up at every meeting. So these things are very, very important in terms of being the leader and setting the tone. Let me hear your thoughts on that real quick.
Yeah, you have to find the white space to actually think about the direction that you're bringing your team and your organization in. If you don't have that white space on your calendar, that is not sustainable. It's not a good leadership strategy. It's not a good organizational strategy. You have to carve out the white space on your calendar. You have to set that tone and you have to create that space. And within every meeting that you're in, if you are purpose-driven overall and you are looking to bring an organization or a team into a certain space, then you have to be able to set that tone and those objectives in each singular meeting. What we do in repetition is how we create culture. You can't say I have a culture of everyone having, you know, like low stress and then jam them in meetings 24/7, you know, like the consistency. People trust what they experience and what they see, not what they hear. So if your words and your actions as it relates to how you conduct meetings, the standard to which you hold them, and how you yourself behave in meetings, then you're going to have a culture that's also going to fracture under the weight of this meeting overload that we have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we talked about the old blueprint when it came to meetings, right? Let's talk about the new blueprint, right? Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to have a high performing team, right? And to have a high performing team, you need to protect their focus, right? So in doing that, what does that mean? Fewer meetings, Shorter meetings, going back to that 10, 15 minute, right? Clear the agenda, okay?
Yeah.
Clear outcomes of what we're trying to accomplish in this meeting, right? And then ownership. If there is a follow,
Yes.
who has what, who's going to do what, who's going to bring what back. So everybody's on the same thing. And then back to your point, the most important thing is respect for the uninterrupted work time. At the end of the day, you're there at the organization to be productive. You're there, you're paying people to bring their work ethic every day and to solve these problems or sell these widgets or come up with a strategy to advance the organization or drive more market share. Whatever that case may be, that's what people are there for. So if you can clear their calendars, fewer meetings, shorter meetings, clear agendas, and then more importantly, clear outcomes, the decisions that need to be made, then you're actually, working with the new blueprint when it comes to meetings. Thoughts?
Yeah. Yes. And when we do these like look backs on any operation or project or program, we do a lessons learned. One of the things you can incorporate into every meeting you have, or even just a weekly redress, or after a few meetings of a certain group of people, hey, quick, in 5 minutes, how did this go? Are the right people at this table? Are we discussing the right things? Are we leaving with the right, takeaways? How is this going? Because every meeting should be better or at least the same as the last one. When they degenerate and they're just useless meetings, one, you're going to see attendance drop or at least interaction drop. And the entire culture really does get affected, never mind bottom line and productivity. Because I'm sure that when you're in an interviewing for any position, or you were interviewing someone for a position, the question was never asked, so how do you enjoy meetings? Because that's not what you hired people for. That's not why you were hired. You were hired because you solved complex problems, because you had technical information, because you were good at selling and representing a company, not sitting on a screen or in an office twiddling your thumbs, waiting for the clock to strike one so you could get on to the next one because you were overlapping in meetings. So I think we really need to go back to purpose of the organization and of every role inside of it, quantify how much we're spending in terms of lost productivity and lost wages, and really get clear on what is the meeting culture. You can't just start kicking people out of meetings without some retribution on how that affects the corporate culture. You have to set a tone and set new expectations, new understandings, and lead with purpose in that regard.
Absolutely, Dr. B. I love that. I really love that. So everyone, if your calendar is full, but your team is not moving forward, the problem might not be the people. It might be the meetings.
Because time, as we know, is the most important resource that any team has, along with energy. And energy and time get sucked dry in meetings. Wasting that erodes performance and productivity.
And here's the thing, though, too, right? High performance teams don't need to meet constantly, right? That's why they're high performing.
Yeah, they meet intentionally with purpose. With purpose.
Exactly. And that's how you burn the blueprint. So, Dr. B,
got it.
I think we did it again. I think that's a wrap for today's burn.
All right, we broke down an outdated blueprint and we showed exactly what needs to change to help productivity and success in today's workplaces.
Absolutely. And this sparks something for you. Share it with the leader who's in review season right now, who's in meeting season, and have them be able to be self-reflective. And really, based on what we're sharing today, are they setting their organization up right with the number of meetings, and more importantly, how they structure those meetings?
Absolutely. And join the movement. Tell us what blueprint you want us to burn down next.
Because this is Burn the Blueprint podcast,
where old systems get tossed
and new ideas get built.
That's it.
All right, my friend, you ready to burn this big blueprint? As a matter of fact, I think I just cleared hold on, when you burn it, I think my calendar is going to clear up. Let me see.
Okay, all right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Woo.
Did it work?
Oh, man, I'm wide open right now. Matter of fact, after this, we need to go, maybe we can go and have a glass of wine or something, because guess what? My calendar just cleared up. But again, I'm Tony Tidbit.
And I'm Dr. B.
And we'll see you guys next time.